And Chad, I believe that you said this was conference call number what?
135.
So today is July the 20th, and it is conference call number 135. I'm Tim Yandel. I'm sitting in for the traveling Jim Sullivan today. Jim's on his way down to the Keys, as I said earlier. If you'd like to get your questions answered, hit star 6 and 1, and Chad is on to answer your questions. Tom is also with us, and we usually go around the horn and see if anybody has anything exceptionally exciting they'd like to share. Tom, are you here? I don't know if you've gotten on yet or not. You said something you were having problems with your phone.
Yeah, I'm on.
Do you have anything intelligent that you'd like to add?
Well, let me think. No, I just want to remind everybody that if they need anything, they can always contact us at support@alltheleads.com. I'm also reaching out to a lot of the new customers, people who have been here for a month or two, just to see how their marketing plans are going and make sure that our company's doing everything we can to help you be successful. So you will be getting a call from me if you haven't already. That's all I have.
That's great. Chad, do you want to talk a little bit? I think you had a technical issue yesterday with your training. You may want to talk a little bit about that and talk about training a bit.
Actually, I didn't want to talk about that, but I guess I have to now.
Yeah, you got to.
So I'm going to throw Cox Internet under the bus. We rescheduled Probate Mastery Session 3 for later today because yesterday the Internet seemed to be coming in waves. So we're wrapping up the July class today. The next class will be in August. I haven't set the dates, probably the third week of August we'll do that. But for anybody who's in the class yesterday, was in the class yesterday, sorry. And we will be immediately after this call finishing up July Mastery.
Okay, great. That's super. And for those of you who've asked a couple of questions, we've gotten some questions from support. You may have noticed that there's a notification in your subscriber portal about the obituary program that we've started. The first county's data for that should be coming in over the weekend, and we're going to be looking forward to some great results. If you'd like to join that program, just fill out the very brief form there, and I'll be in touch with you and tell you a little bit more about it in person. And I don't want to take up a lot of time on our call now. We do have a couple of people in the queue. If you'd like to get into the queue yourself and you have a question or anything that you'd like to talk with us about, tell us your greatest stories. Tell us how you're doing. If you've had some great successes, we'd love to hear about that. We usually do hear about them on the call, and we'd love to hear yours. There's a whole bunch of people on the call today. I haven't done the count. I'll do that in a little bit, but looks like there's a bunch, so we look forward to hearing what you have to say. And Jim, do you want to say anything before we get started?
No, I don't think so. Just I always like to remind everyone, we've had great participation in our Facebook group recently. All the Leads Mastermind, if you're not a member of that, register for that. If you missed Mastery this month, it's the third week of every month, and once you take Mastery, you're an alumni, and you can keep on taking that. And I think that's about it. We've had some great testimonials from our agents in the last week or so, and hopefully some of them are on the call today will come on and give us a good story live. So that's about it for now. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and take our first caller. Again, I'll remind you, star 6 and then 1, and we don't bite. We'd love to hear from you, so please join us and hop in here, and I'm going to take the first one. Phone number ending in 7766. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, we hear you.
Yep, Alan here in Dallas. So,
hey, Alan.
Question. Just getting started. Got my first download of leads for Dallas County a week ago, and we're working on getting our mailer out and then to make the call. I've been using voice for following up some of my leads, my buyer other sources. Your thoughts about the drop mail box, the numbers into voicemail and just blasting out a call to all those numbers?
So I don't know if it was cutting out for everybody, but I missed at least 40% of what you said because the phone was cutting in and out.
Yeah, it was a little bit as well here. Can you just try again? I heard some of it, but if you don't mind, give it another try.
Okay. So is this any better? Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay. So I've been using voicemail drop for buyer leads through some other sources. I was just wondering what your thoughts are about using a voicemail drop, downloading the phone numbers from the leads and then sending out a voicemail drop. Have y'all had any success with?
So we have, and I caught enough of it that time. I know what we're talking about.
I apologize. I may have to
We
call
have
back
had
in.
good success with ringless voicemail, and I assume that the
Yes.
service you're referencing
Same.
is the same.
Yes,
So
it is. Yep.
okay. So we've had good success. Obviously, you're going to have much better results if you do live prospecting.
Okay.
The ISAs we worked with and the tenacious prospectors who track everything that have reported back to us, you're going to have, if you make live phone calls during those kind of key times that we talk about in the fast track training in session 3,
Yep.
you're going to have about 2-to-1 contact rates. Personally, if I drop 100 ringless voicemails, it's a really good day if I get 2 callbacks. Now, I will say that they're usually come list me calls, like they're only the really qualified ones bother to call back. So you've got to look at what your bandwidth is and what all you're trying to get from this. I mean, you're going to miss opportunities because most people don't return voicemail, period, whether it's live or automated. It's just hard to get people to return voicemail in today's now. So you will miss opportunities, but I think, where it can be a useful tool is if you know the calls aren't going to get made, that can be better than doing nothing.
Could you layer it in? Could you layer it in with your live calls? Do you think you could do a combination?
Sure, you can. Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I would say is whatever service you're using, just make sure you're familiar with TCPA. That's the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and make sure that you're compliant with that.
Okay.
But,
yeah, and Chad, I was going to add, as far as combining the two, it's ringless voicemail is a very good system for lead follow-up. Once you've spoken to the people and you say to them, it's okay if I check back with you in a week or two, or check back with you every couple of weeks. I used to use ringless to, like, every Tuesday at 12:30 during lunchtime, I'd send them a ringless voicemail. Hey, it's Jim, just checking to see, you ready to get the property on the market yet? If you have a lot of lead follow-up, it can be productive to do it that way. It's also, again, going to be better to call them live, but if you reach a overwhelm factor where you're not going to make the initial calls or make the follow-up calls, it's a lot better than nothing. And I had the same experience as Chad. I actually did pretty well with the ringless voicemail, but I did it because I was testing the system and I had 3 other businesses and I didn't have time to make the live calls. So, and I know in your counties you mentioned there, you've got a lot of leads, right?
Well, I'm only doing 100 right now to kind of ease into it, but yeah, you're right. I think Jim said there were up to 350 leads. So and I'm a one-man show, and I have a part-time admin. I know there's virtual assistants that can do, my out desk and places like that'll do calls, but I don't know how successful those are, in making the initial calls.
Chad, I think you've shared before that the ISAs that you've trained, you haven't had much success getting them to try to close the deal, but the most successful ISAs I think that we've heard around the country are basically just set appointments for the agents, and that can be a really effective way to use an ISA.
Well, the big difference is what we found is having an ISA go into any specifics on the probate or the options you provide is a mistake. Having them set up phone appointments for you so you can have those conversations. So they're essentially going through your list pre-qualifying. Is there a need for help, and is there real estate? And then try to and then set those appointments. So instead of having 100 probate leads, 100 leads, you may have 25 possibilities, and just shorten down your prospecting time. But any time that I've tried to get an ISA to actually go through the entire initial conversation, and just haven't been successful with it.
Okay. Do I have time for one more question, or can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I just want to add
Okay.
two more things real quick. One is that, Chad mentioned the TCPA, and we'd be remiss if we didn't remind everyone that we do not currently scrub anything against the do not call list. We give you the data as it's presented to us and as we're able to gather it. So you do definitely want to check on that, and there are some relatively specific prohibitions in the TCPA in regard to leaving voicemails for people on the do not call list on a cell phone. So you kind of want to take a look at that and, just be aware of what you're doing and all that sort of stuff. It's just something that you need to think about. The other thing is that if you look at anything like this that you do not as a substitute, but as an adjunct to the personal call that Chad's talking about, that's really the right way to look at it. It's you could be calling back then on that and saying, hey, I left you a voicemail a couple of days ago, I hadn't heard back from you. It's a way to follow up. It's just like following up on the letters, which we encourage you to send out. It gives you another reason to call them back.
Sure. Okay. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Appreciate that, guys. So my attorney gave me my first probate lead yesterday, and I went out and spoke with the siblings that are there, and they told me up front that they had an investor group from We Buy Ugly Houses that would be coming in, and I wasn't afraid of that because I have a buddy that he has a franchise for that, and I kind of know what their pricing structure is, their formulas for that. So I felt like I felt like what we had offered them price wise for this home that was in rough condition would beat out that deal. And I told them, look, if they can match this price, if they end up matching this price, then let me know and we'll figure something out. And so they said, well, we don't think he will. We appreciate what you're offering us, and we'll go from there. Well, you know the story. I get a call this morning that the We Buy Ugly Houses guy not only matched my price, but he went above what I thought it would sell for. And then they ended up calling another investor in the area, and they got into a bidding war over the phone based on my price. And I lost the deal. They sold it to an investor last night. So what advice do y'all have on something on that?
And you were approaching it as an agent, correct?
Yes, as listing the house. I'm a real estate broker, so my job was to go in there and list it and show them what the data was for the sales data for the past 6 months in that neighborhood, so that they could come in with the price, and we give a pricing strategy of going a little bit below market. So because in this market we're getting multiple offers, and if you go a little bit below what the market is, like 80%, there's going to be a frenzy. And I showed them that on several other sales in that neighborhood where they priced them substantially below where the market would come in. They ended up with multiple offers, and they ended up getting bid up from the mid 110s, 120s to the mid 140s, 150s. And so that was what I laid out for them, and they kind of used that information and went out and did their own bidding war yesterday afternoon, and I'm out of the deal now.
So have you spoken to them since? Have they signed a contract with the buyer?
They signed a contract with the agent who brought an investor last evening. Didn't even call me back on it.
Okay, so they put it out to other agents.
They put it out not only to the We Buy Ugly House guy, but they put it out to one other agent. But they didn't tell me they didn't tell me that was on the table yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot you could have done differently. I mean, you at some point you've got to show your cards in order to earn business, right?
Sure.
So you did your homework. You went and provided a professional service, and they, I can't. I don't want to attack their ethics, but they may. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they don't realize that they wronged you. If they just used you to validate, to get a valuation, that I don't think it's anything you could have avoided.
Any pre-qualification? Because the question I asked, are you interviewing other agents? And they said, we have an appointment this evening with the guy from We Buy Ugly Houses franchise. And I asked his name because I know some of those people, and thinking that I might know them. And and I wasn't worried because they usually are offering well below what the market's going to bear in this area. And so I wasn't concerned I'd lose the deal. But yeah, they took my information and offered it out to another guy and it came in exactly where I told him it would, in the upper 140s. And
so the only thing I can tell you is that you should have painted a little bit of a better picture of what a real estate transaction looks like from the inside. What I find most FSBOs or people who think they're smarter than real estate agents, what they overlook is what happens when a deal goes sideways and they're working a 60-hour work week and kids have soccer practice and all this is going on. And everybody on this call has met somebody that just thinks that, it's like the end of the world, because if you're representing yourself in a transaction, then that's your burden, right? Like, so you have to do that. So if I knew that if I was in the position you were in, I think all you could do is really help them see the value in working with a real estate professional, not a sales and marketing professional, not an appraiser. Like, forget the price, forget how you're going to market it. The market's so hot, you don't even have to talk about that. Anyone can do that, right? And downplay that, but upplay, what's really important, and where most agents let off the gas is when the ink is dried on the contract and they're out looking for their next deal. Here's what we can do to protect you, and here's what we can do to absorb a lot of that responsibility and liability, and really play on your strength as the transaction coordinator, and when and if something goes wrong. That's about all you could have done differently. I mean, when you're in a super hot market like that, and anyone can throw a house on Zillow and sell it for 110% of market, you gotta look at, okay, so where am I valuable? Like, where is my most value? If it's not in marketing the home, where can I show them that it's a lot different when the
deal goes sideways? Yeah, you're exactly, when the deal goes sideways, which happens, often. So that's a great point. I'm going to make some notes on that, because that's a great deal, is to remind them, that, not everything runs smoothly, and we earn our money when the things go wrong.
And I'm sure you don't have to go too far back in your history to find a story of a seller you were representing when something went wrong with the loan or the home inspection, or the buyer got cold feet, found another house, went out and put an offer on it, and then had to come back and cancel this contract. Maybe you had to threaten them with specific performance. Like, I got hundreds of messy stories. So pull on those stories, pull on that past experience, and say, because, Mr. Seller, the average person sells a home about every 11 years now, according to NAR. I don't know how long it's been for you, but it's not something that most people do every day. And a lot of people will talk to you about technology this, technology that. At the end of the day, the real problem comes into most real estate transactions when things don't go as planned. And in my experience, that's in about 80% of transactions. And the problem, 9 times out of 10, comes from the buyer's side, because they control the money in the transaction. And they have to qualify for lending, and they have to be comfortable after the home inspection, and all those problems that can come up. You're on your own if you're unrepresented, and you've got hundreds and hundreds of transactions of experience if I'm by your side. So you've got to look at, you've got to look at your risk and make a decision. And I know that you didn't know that you were going to get cut out of this deal, so you didn't have that conversation. But it's think about it next time. You need to let them know what they don't know.
Are there any qualifying questions that you would have asked? I mean, I thought by asking, are you talking to any other agents or interviewing any other agents, was a pretty good pre-qualifier, but obviously,
Well, so rather than asking, I prefer to do just a presumptive close. Like, when I show up at the house, I presume I'm leaving there with a signed listing agreement. And I would have had it with me. It would have been pre-filled, and I would have asked them if they were comfortable with that price. And even if if then even if they said, well, we've got this homevestors guy coming, I would have said, okay, perfect. I've actually already written in an exclusion here. If you look in additional remarks, up until Friday at 5:00, any buyer that you bring to the table is actually excluded. So press hard. There's 2 copies, and in like that would have given you hopefully, if they saw value in your service, they would have signed the listing agreement. And then if they went and shopped it around, or the home, I would have excluded probably just the homevestors guy, probably not all buyers, and see if I could get them to sign that.
Those are great ideas, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Great question, and a very, very good set of circumstances to talk about on these calls. That's exactly what we're here for. So we appreciate it. I'm going to let you go now and get you rolling, and we'll take our next caller, ending in 4924. Nahid?
Yes, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. I wanted to ask you guys if you can give me some insight about how to approach the attorneys, become their best friends, and any recommendations.
Dropping off bags of cash at their office is usually a pretty good way to accomplish that. So what we've found to be most effective in building a referral network out of attorneys is show up face-to-face and show them how you can bring value to their business that's different than their past experiences with real estate agents. So think about the position they're in. So they have probably dozens, if not hundreds, of these files coming through their office each month or each year. Mm-hmm. They have a capped amount of money that they can make, and they hear the same damn questions every day. How do we do this? What do we do here? So it's a redundant thing for them. It's pretty much guaranteed business, so it's good for their business, and they're doing it probably because they really want to help people. But think about the problems. Think about sitting down with the family, saying the same thing over and over and over, and answering those questions. And then think about how can you take a lot of that off of his plate. So statistically, 80% of the wealth is held in the real estate, and they probably have to liquidate the real estate assets in order to settle the liabilities. So if you can show that attorney how you can take a lot of that redundancy off of his plate and put it on yours by having a consultation with the family, showing them their options, getting the house cleaned out, getting it sold, and work with him to complement his business, then it's a really good way to impress them. And it's not the send me listings, let me prove you how good of a realtor I am conversation. It's like I understand your business, and I think that what I do really obviously I'm serving the same client base you are, but my business really complements yours. And help them understand that, and you'll do it in your own way. I mean, you can come up with your own, kind of your own pitch for that. But that's what I would focus on having them understand that you have built an all-encompassing resource to help people in the probate situation, and the net result of that can be a lot of pressure off of his business where he's spent answering questions and providing service that he's not paid for.
Sure. Sounds good. Thank you.
And I'll point back to role play call number, it was the July role play call. I think it was number 22. It could be number 21, but the one that we did on July 5th, I believe it was. If you look in the archive, the second of those 3 role play scenarios, we talked about some one of our newer guys from California shared some really, really good ideas on how he's going to approach this. And he actually approached it not even talking about probate referrals. He approached it as an inbound referral relationship. So I'm trying to find qualified attorneys for referral partners so I can send my clients to you. And then he obviously had the plan to segue that into a reciprocal referral agreement with where he also gets referrals from the probate attorney. But listen to that role play call from the July just a few weeks ago, and I think you'll get some inspiration there.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We've got a few more people in the queue. We'll get to everybody today. The next one we'll be taking is caller ending in 2588.
Oh,
Go
hi.
ahead.
Yeah, it's John in Oregon. Hey, real quick.
Hey there.
Hello. Hey, I've been with you guys for about 3 months now, and I've just got an ISA that's assisting, so I appreciate the fact that you said appointment setting rather than going into detail. That makes sense. And then I just want to let you guys know I already have a listing out of it. And I hadn't made calls yet, but somebody got on their second letter, called me, and they had already talked to their realtor they've used in the past, and decided to go with me instead, just based on what I was bringing to the table and how I could help out with what they were going through and needed done. So just wanted to let you know it does work, and I do the 3 letters.
Awesome. That's just
awesome.
great to
so
hear.
what was the number one thing that differentiated you from the other agent? Like, what did they need the most from you?
Honestly, what I got out of it was the other agent looked at the house and looked at, what was in the house and said, you're probably better off either selling it to an investor or you're going to need to do a lot of work. And there wasn't a lot of money in the account for, taking care of some stuff before putting it on the market. So I did talk to a few of my contractors who are happy to get paid out of escrow. And so, for instance, it's going to need a new roof. And I just said, I got my guy out there. He did his bid. And I said, okay, we don't have to worry about financing with the roof. And if we don't have to worry about cash buyers, but we bring in the pool of buyers that will be able to get a loan because we can get the roof taken care of prior to closing, then it opens up a whole new pool and it will increase the price we can ask for the home.
Mm-hmm.
So we went that route, and then I gave them some people who can go ahead and bring trucks over and haul away a bunch of stuff and give them actually a tax-deductible receipt for it as well. So it just seemed like her realtor probably felt there was just too much work involved in it.
No, she didn't see the opportunity that you did. So that's you're being really modest here, and most agents. I'm not saying most agents on this phone call, but most agents would have done exactly what she did. They don't think outside of the box. And you thought creatively, and you became a transaction engineer, and you said, I know this guy, and this guy. I can pull it in right here, and I can impress the hell out of these people. And that's exactly what we want all you guys to do, and exactly what you did. So don't sell yourself short. Like, you did something that a lot of agents wouldn't have even thought of. Having a close enough relationship with a contractor to carry an invoice on a property that may or may not ever close. Like, he's sticking his neck out there for you, and that speaks volumes about you. And not every agent can do that. So good for you, man.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to add the same. Yeah, I just want to add the same thing. The real value in having something like that. That's something that hadn't heard yet on this call that you brought up, is having someone in hand that can wait until it closes and pull it out of the proceeds, that sort of thing. That's an awesome thing to bring to the table, even if there aren't things necessary to, that you think have to be done. Just the fact that you go to the trouble of figuring all that out, you're ready to play, and that sets you apart from so many people. That's just great.
All right. Well, thank you, guys.
You bet. Good job. All right. We'll take the next caller, and I think we've probably heard this guy before. 9636, Mr. Lacey.
Good afternoon, everybody. Roger Lacey in beautiful God's country of northwest Arkansas. I was listening to that, and the couple of the callers that have called in have the second caller, the guy that just hung up, just answered the question for the first guy that has having automatically a price issue with competitors, known or unknown, that goes on. I think the real differentiator is the second call, when you can say whether there's something in there. And I've had it done with foundation issues in here. And once the foundation guy showed up at closing and we give him a $10,000 check, all of a sudden this guy looked at me and he said, I'd hate to have your job, Roger. And I said, just what I do every day, man. And so he's sending me referrals on houses that with people that are having. So you're not only getting the referral from the. It's sort of like talking to the attorneys and have a reciprocal of a referral system set up. You can do it with your support network that you have, and leading in the conversation is what I do with my referral network. And I need to do a better job of asking those guys, if we get it under contract, will you accept payment at closing, and just have the title company cut the check for the work done and completed on that. And families will just sit there and go, it's not out of my pocket. Wow, that's pretty cool. So the value that I see that we bring to the table is the referral network of support folks that we have, and the ongoing. Whenever I get down on myself, too many no's in a day, I'll break off and I'll go listen to some of the Chad Corbett role plays, and that gets me all juiced up again, and I'll go after more calls. But
most people do that to put themselves to sleep.
Well, I'm a geek anyway. I'm an unapologetic analytical, and just move forward with it. But it's really cool to get to listen to how Chad handles those calls on that he does, even though they're trumped up role play calls. Chad handles them exceptionally well, and I go, why didn't I think of financial planners and trust? Put your own property in a trust, so that your family doesn't have to go through this. All of a sudden, you're coming at a completely different value perception with the probate personal representative, and when you start doing the same thing with reciprocal referrals with attorneys, all of a sudden you're going to be getting divorce calls. You're going to be getting the preferred. I know a guy that does that, boom, and you get inbound calls that are 6 or 8 months old because the PR hasn't done anything on it since I stopped mailing and stopped calling, and it says, oh yeah, I remember, I got your piece, and yada 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 yada. So don't ever get into the real estate conversation until you start talking about the services that you have as your backup network. That's the value that we bring that separates us from all of the other realtors on the street. Even investors, they don't really care. They're just going to trash out everything that's in the house and come in and lowball as much as they can so they can make a profit on a thing. That's my observations on that. The other thing that I wanted to add to the call is something that I have done over the past year and a half, 2 years that I'm doing it, is I'm taking families and moving them from the probate list and moving them into my sphere of influence, and I have a separate marketing program for my sphere of influence, and I'm getting referrals off of my sphere of influence calls that I've added from probate to that, with Susie who received $10,000 out of the thing. All of a sudden she wants to go sell her house and go buy another one as a added value to the lists that we get from all the leads. And there's just so many value added angles to this. You just got to kind of focus on each one of them and segment within your own marketing how you reach out to your sphere of influence and use the same aggressive calling with value on all the leads. Sorry, that's all I got. I don't want to monopolize time. But
wow,
that's all
Roger,
I got.
Roger, I wanted to just add something. As always, great stuff, and we really appreciate you showing up and contributing. But you reminded me of a couple things we've touched on briefly before. I bet 80% of the people on this call have a estate sale company, but I wonder how many of them have asked the estate sale company to send them referrals, because often the stuff is the biggest issue. And I'll bet there's a lot of people that will call the estate sale company first before the realtor. So if you're giving that estate sale company business, you should be asking for business in return. Another thing you reminded me of is the person maybe 6 months ago that wasn't going to go to the estate sale, and one of our agents shared with us that they attend, when their estate sale company does that yard sale, they attend every one of them, and they stand in the front yard and meet all the neighbors, and they establish a presence in a neighborhood that maybe they hadn't done business in before. It's kind of like a reverse just listed, just sold. So great points, and I just kind of wanted to reinforce both of those opportunities that you reminded us of. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and good luck, everybody. Stay on the phone, and I've become a big phone advocate. Someday, my business is coming at me from so many different directions now. I'm not doing as much calling and I feel guilty about it on my probate stuff. So I need to really focus on the next week and a half on the last 2 months of lists that I've got.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you. As always, Roger, we appreciate you. Thanks. Jim, anybody else in the queue?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Caller ending in 1138. Go ahead.
Yeah, how you doing? This is Marcus Hines from California.
Marcus, we just talked about you earlier.
Right on. Hope it was good.
It was.
Beautiful. Where I'm at is my biggest challenge right now is when I'm on the phone with folks, they just quickly get off the phone and just don't need anything and hang up. Is this the right time to bring that up or no?
Yeah, as good a time as any. Are they telling you why they don't need anything? Do they think the attorney's handling it? Do they already have another agent?
Yeah, I already have an attorney, thank you, and then I just try to stop. Well, I offer quite a few resources for folks here in the Bay Area. I have a team that help out, and they've already hung up. They say, I've got an attorney.
So this may or may not fit your personality, but I'd like for you to try it at least once today.
Okay.
Ring, ring.
Hello.
I'm trying to reach Marcus.
This is Marcus.
Hey, Marcus. My name's Chad Corbett, and I noticed that you're the executor of an estate, and I was just calling to let you know that your attorney's not doing all you think he is. Have you got a minute to discuss that? So it's abrupt, and it's going to interrupt them, and with the right personality type, it might even put them on guard, but it might get you into a conversation too. And there might be a better variation of that because I just made it up on the spot. But when there's so much noise, nobody's noticing you. Sometimes you gotta be a disruptor, right? You have to be disruptive. So I would encourage you to think about, like, what can you say to make them laugh or to stop them in their tracks and give you the attention that you need to actually have a conversation. They may not think they need you because they may not know, they probably don't know there's somebody out there that can do what you're offering. And I'll put that on you. Like, you have to be disruptive if nobody's paying attention to you in a good way.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is don't sound scripted, connect whatever needs to connect, and sound scripted.
Just be casual, be as casual and funny as you can be, and see what happens. I bet you'll find that you at least engage in conversations.
Yeah.
And try different jokes until you find the right one, and laugh at yourself. You're going to fall on your face. When you do something unconventional like this, you're going to fail forward. But you just might stumble onto the perfect way to start these conversations, and you just might make $1 million off of it next year because of your price points in your area.
Yeah.
But if and this is for all of you guys, if you're just hitting walls, this works anywhere. And it can work for anyone who's committed to it. These people need help. I don't care where they are, what the market's like. It's a really stressful situation. And their ego oftentimes won't let them admit that they're terrified and they actually would love to have help. So it's up to us to really help them understand, to make them feel comfortable with us and trust us, and then help them understand that we can do a lot of this for you. So don't be afraid to try new things. If being polished and professional and following what you have taped on your wall is not working, tear it off the wall and go do something different. Find out what works.
I like it. Okay.
Thanks
All
for
right,
stepping
man.
up, Marcus.
Right on. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. All right, sir. Very good. Appreciate that. Ending in 4407. Go ahead.
Joe Pro over in Southern California, and I just
Hey there.
wanted. How you doing? I just want to throw in a couple experiences by visiting the attorneys. How helpful that is, and you shouldn't be afraid of it. The other day or last week, I was out, lined them all up, in one town, and just decided to see them all at one time. And I hadn't been to a couple of the addresses yet, so I thought it was a suite number, but actually it was a unit number for a townhome, and it was a gal that was the attorney, and it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and she was still in her nightgown, and she invited me in and asked me if I wanted a cup of coffee. So that was a little different.
Where's this story going, Joe?
Oh, no. I was just gonna say that don't be afraid of going, because they're all different. They all have different setups, personalities, client load, and so I offered her. I said, on occasion we run into California. We run into pro per leads as well, and these are people that generally aren't successful at it. They find out that they're filing the wrong documents and other roadblocks, and they're going to need an attorney. Are you interested in that side of it? And so that's a little bit of icebreaker, and we don't have a lot of them, but they do show up. And there's other people who think they have their home in a trust, and they use LegalZoom, and they didn't properly fund it, and so then they're finding themselves back in probate. So there's a lot of situations that I think will end up needing a professional person to help them out, and would they be interested to be on a local list? And they continue the conversation, and it seems to work out good. You can also offer reviewing of the prelim title reports, or maybe a backup property valuation. Other things to keep the conversation going. So that's been my experience.
That's great, man. Way to think outside of the box. So how many, and way to step out of your comfort zone and go try it the first time. So many people never get there. Pretty much every day we talk to somebody who doesn't do it. So how many did you visit in that first trip?
11.
11. And how many of them were you able to get face-to-face with?
3.
Okay.
It seems to be about the norm, 30%.
Okay. Well, a little dose of encouragement.
Okay.
A dinner party one night.
Chad, we lost you there, bud.
Oh yeah?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Hear you now. But go ahead, re-say what you just said again.
It was just a story of encouragement. We worked with an agent in San Diego who met a probate attorney at a dinner party, and over the next 10 years, he closed 100 transactions of probate referrals from one single attorney. So 3 solid attorney relationships could be enough to supplement your business. It could supplement your business to the tune of millions of dollars. So good for you for getting out there and doing it.
One of them put me on their Christmas dinner list, so now I'm invited to go to their Christmas dinner.
Well, at least you're getting some prime rib out of the deal if you don't get any deals.
If we don't get any deals. But also, if they're writing trusts, majority of your past clients probably aren't even in the trust, and you can offer a coffee and cookies presentation with them, and they might pick up some additional clients that way.
So that's just great. You're visiting, you're getting food, you're getting to come in, see people in their bathrobes. You're just having an interesting time.
They say it's the start. They say it's the start that stops most people. So if I remember that every morning, I'll get out there.
And that's the
you
truth.
rock, bud. You rock.
Well, good for you,
job.
man. That was an afternoon well spent. 3 attorneys in one afternoon.
Yep. But okay, well, very good. We appreciate all your information.
All right,
job.
you
Thank
keep
you.
going and knock it out of the park. We have
Great.
one more in the
Thank
queue. It is ending in 1861. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Wesley Harper in North Atlanta. New with the service. So one of my questions is, our letters just went out. I'm looking at most of the executors or whatever you want to call them that are in charge of the estate, and it seems to be the spouse of the deceased. What is your script, or how do you approach those individuals? Because it looks like it's their primary residence.
Yeah. So there is, if you go to and subscriber portal on the left, click on tips from the trainer. There's like an 11-minute video on why you should call surviving spouses. It's obviously a very emotionally sensitive time for them,
Right.
but it's also can be it can force life changes beyond just losing your partner. So imagine a husband and wife. The husband does all the yard work. It's summertime, and it's 106 degrees outside, and like they don't have a lawn care service or the money for it. He is always taking care of the property. Now it's up to her. And so things like, just the help that people give each other inside the home and taking care of homes and just what we do for each other, just taking that away can completely change your ability to live on your own. So some of those spouses are going to be forced to make some tough decisions. They're going to have to sell the house they love that they raised their kids in, and they don't want to, and they might not realize that it has to happen yet. So the best thing you can do is just approach them with empathy and help them understand that you're looking to help them. You're not necessarily you're not looking for listings. You're looking to make sure you understand their situation and see if there's any way you can help. And that can be with your senior moving service. It can be with your nursing home, your assisted living or retirement home contacts. It can be getting the home cleaned out, sold, getting personal property sold or put in storage units, and becoming the solution to that big, monstrous, stressful situation that they're in right now. Now, starting that conversation can be tough if they're not ready to have it. So it needs to be a soft approach. Call, introduce yourself, help them understand some of the things you can do to help that are specific to their problems. And if you feel like they're engaging, move on. If not, step back and just follow up with them later. But just, send them letters.
Right.
A lot of times you'll get phone calls from surviving spouses. They're come list me's. They sat in the probate quicksand for months or years, and all of a sudden one day your phone rings and they're like, Chad, I got this letter 2 years ago. Can you just please make this house gone? And I've had plenty of those. I've had people do that over their parents too, but a lot of times a surviving spouse will just one day, they'll wake up and be sitting there with a cup of coffee, and whatever that emotional breakthrough was, it happens. They call you, you list the house. So don't shy away from them. Honestly, they probably need our help more than anyone. They're just in a more sensitive, they're more sensitive. It's hit them harder typically. So
Right.
don't not reach out to them, but you can soften your approach and just be more empathetic when you reach out to them.
Okay, good point. Thank you.
All right. Well, folks, that's it. That's all we had in the queue. We ended with about 10 minutes to spare. We appreciate your participation today. Chad, great answers as always. And Jim, are you still with us?
I am here.
So you get to make your closing speech like you always do because you do it so well. And we're going to compare it to Chad's speech when you're not here. So go ahead.
Well, no pressure. I always like to close these calls by challenging everybody. I would have to say this was one of our best calls ever as far as great, solid, specific, concrete ideas and suggestions and inspiring stories. So y'all took almost an hour of your life to be here today, and we really appreciate it. Take one thing, one thought, one idea, one story that inspired you from today's call. Go out and put it into practice and come back and tell us what happened next week. We really appreciate all of you guys. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.
All right. Good job.